dive into the Ohio State. I talked to Zach last night. I know you saw his take too.
Zach broke the story, by the way. Zach broke the story on Saturday.
Yeah. Zach broke the story. He brought up a lot of topics. He told me a lot of things. His wife's on Facebook and basically saying that they locked him out of the facility and said you had this XY amount of time to sign this $2.7 million deal. I told you at my house, I said, there's no way Ohio State don't match it or can't match it. I said, something's going on there. Rumors now that Chip Kelly may be going to the Lions or the Texans from an inside source of mine. That's an inside source of mine. So, yeah, interesting on that. We're curious. I hope not. I hope you don't go to the Texans with my player. But I got to ask you, I understand dollars and cents talks. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. I get all that. But do you really leave for the inferior team? I don't understand.
Well,
something else is bigger here.
Coach, if you look at the last 10 matchups, Ohio State has dominated that rivalry. It's not like they're blowing them out, but they are winning all the games. They just won a national title. Here's the issue for Penn State, though. Would you rather have an elite defensive coordinator, and your defense has not been the problem? Their defense is solid. If their defense and offense were a little bit more level, they may have won the national title. I think Penn State's bigger issue is, and I've said this throughout the whole year, they have no threats outside. They have to get faster and more explosive on the perimeter. Where have you gone, O.J. McDuffie? Joe Jaravicius ain't walking through that door. K.J. Hamler is not walking through that door. Kenny Jackson, Bobby Ingram are not walking. They are so pedestrian at wide receiver. And I think that their quarterback might be inconsistent, Drew Aller, but he's got an NFL arm, and you're basing your whole offense on Ty Warren. I actually think Penn State made a good hire, but I think they're better off getting a lot more speed and spending that money to get a couple portal wide receivers.
Can I just give you some context on this? So they hired him for roughly $3.2 million.
Woo!
He would be the 58th highest paid head coach in college football. He's a D coordinator. He would rank above Deshaun Foster, Clark Lee, Britt Brennan, Brent Key, Dickert, Alex Golish, Jeff Traylor, who's done a great job. He would be ahead of Rhett Lashley at SMU by over $1 million. He would be paid higher than Jeff Monken, Trent Bray, Jay Norvell. He'd be higher paid than Barry Odom and Jim Mora. I just got to be honest, just giving you guys context, this is the defensive coordinator. He would be paid higher than a half the NCAA head coaches. So, to your point, Steve, why would you put all that money in the kitty on the defensive side when your defense has been legit for 30 years?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I didn't look at Penn State and say, God, if they just would have had they had one of the better defenses in the country. Abdul Carter will be a top 5 pick. They've consistently produced on that side of the ball. But again, it's a dog-eat-dog world. But if you're Ohio State, you still have a lot of talent, but you're losing it. Maybe Jim Knowles says, well, wait a minute. I've won a national title. I got the job done. I'm going to be losing a lot of players like JTT, Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke. Maybe he's thinking, you know what, I've maximized my time. Let me make some money. I mean, $500,000, that's a lot of money. That's a pretty significant difference for any coach.
Let's go to some jaw-jacking or real talk, Steve. We got Coach Reed, friend of the show. I've known Carl a long time. St. Louis native, covers CBS Sports and some other things. I want to get you, if this is some real talk or jaw-jacking. He talks about college football recruiting here in this segment. Take a listen.
In this day and age, college coaches have to look at you like an asset that can or cannot help their team. What upsets you a lot of times about the recruiting process is that through the player acquisition phase, which is recruiting, relationships have to be built because of the way that it's designed for college coaches to acquire players. In the National Football League, it's a draft. So the relationship building between player and coach and family is not the same process. So you get really upset when a coach, you feel like he promised you something and he went back on it. Most coaches don't want to be bad guys. They would like for it to be a developmental game, but they don't have time anymore. They fire you quick. And players, you also have the ability to come and go as you please. So the game has just changed. And what do you do when something changes or when things are one way and you wish they were another? You better change with it.
Adapt or die.
Adapt or die. It is Darwinism. And he's right. Look, the years were like, let me give you an example. Don Nehlen in the 80s. Great job at West Virginia. And there was a particular pattern he had. And Don Nehlen really elevated that program. He'd have a good team like every 4 to 5 years because he had to develop a group of guys and let them grow together. And by their senior years, like they'd make a run. So if you ever look at Don Nehlen's record, every fourth year, like whether it was like a good year in like 83, 84, and then 88, they played for the national title. They had another good team in like the 90s, but they never were like a team that won 11, 11, 10. They'd always go like 5, 7, 8, then all of a sudden 11 or 12. I think those days are over, Coach. Can't do it. You get stripped away. The portal kills that ability to do that.
But I gotta add, eventually it's gonna run dry, man. The well will run dry, and then what Carl just said, nothing will. It'll all be changed again. It'll all be different.
I know one thing that could solve it, and I'll say this again: multi-year contracts. If this is now professional football, why are we going everything on a one-off? Make these NIL deals contingent on playing at a school. Let's get that guy's over with. Let's start faking it. The school is involved. Let's be honest about that. And number 3, multi-year. Doesn't have to be 4 to 5. Make it at least 2. These things can actually give you some very, very good common sense guardrails.
Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, man. I just don't see. I don't know. I just think eventually you're gonna run dry, and the blood life of of this whole thing will come back to the organic nature of high school and JUCO, which they will regret by milking this portal with 7,000 kids a year that eventually run dry when only 1% of them make it out. I mean, it can't live forever like this. It's just no way possible. There's not enough kids.
And Coach, again, if you would just make these players sit out 1 year, like the old days, I think at least half the transfers would say, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shit.
Even more, I think, Steve. I think even more than half, honestly, because players don't want to miss a year. Nobody wants to just miss a whole year. Like, so I'm with you. They change that, it changes everything. But
it's definitely. I don't know. I don't get it. It's crazy. Wild West.